We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Thank you all in the audience. Welcome everybody to our June 18th meeting of the Homeless Advisory Board. Good to have you all here, both in person and online. And we'll go ahead and start and we'll do welcome and roll call. So my name is David Giels. I'm current chair of this board, and I represent Coos County here. And I'm also my day job is the director of behavioral health at Coos Health and Wellness.
Drew Farmer, Coos County Commissioner.
Nicole Rutherford, City of Coos Bay City Manager.
I'm Ron Moore. I'm North Bend.
Sharon Claiborne, North Bend Rep.
And online?
Stephanie Kilmer, Coos Bay City Council.
Welcome, Stephanie. Good to have you here. Is this all of us? Wow. I can't remember the last time that's happened. The stars must be aligning in some weird way. Okay, we'll go ahead and start with our funding summary. You all should have this in your packet as well, but I'll just go over some of it verbally for the audience as well. So we have a list of our current main grants. So we have HB4123, that's our pilot grant. That balance is basically unchanged at 133,000 and change. We have the HB 5019, and that's the initial grant that we got for shelter beds and rehousing. And there's a balance of about 1.37 million in there, and we've expended 560,000 to date. We have the ORI, or the Senate Bill 5701 money, ORI, and there is a balance of 482,000 or so. And we've expended 478,000 on that. And then we have the Youth Emergency Housing, or YEHA. There's a balance of $622,000, and that has not been expended as of yet, any of it. But if we remember, that grant period runs a little bit longer, and so we hadn't expected to spend any of it. So. And then there's different, the following sheets are just the individual costing for each of those different grants. Nicole, did you want to give us an update? I know that the city of Coos Bay administers 3 of these grants other than the 5019. Did you want to give us an update on expenditures around any of these? Handle them as individual items.
However we'd like to approach that. Essentially, I think, just as a reminder, House Bill 4123 is under county fiscal management, and it is essentially not being used at this point. It was really supporting the actual office expenses. And I think May is our last month we had some challenges getting, I think, the cell phones closed down count wise. So that's why that last expenditure sits there. So, and for House Bill 5019, that is under the city of Coos Bay. The funds for that need to be drawn by June 30, and we are currently working on that. That is entirely helping to fund work that AYA has been, Alternative Youth Activities has been doing in regards to the rapid rehousing. And then just to catch a couple of the board members up, we had a shift in our shelter project and did get approval from Oregon Housing Community Services for that shift in the project. And we're kind of underway with requesting those funds and then actually moving forward with that. And so that project is acquisition of one of the Bologna Ranch units, the one that's on Carl Road. we're gonna still, I think, be able to wrap in Coquel Indian Housing Authority had some grant funds, and we received notification that they're going to be able to get an extension on their funds as well to help make that project pencil out. That's happened all in the last basically, 7 to 10 days that we've gotten confirmation on that. OHCS is also willing to extend the expenditure of just the shelter portion of those dollars until June 30th, 26. I don't think we're going to need that long, but it's nice that they gave us that little bit of gap there. So we will have to draw funds, but we can spend them within the next year, essentially. So reporting wise, we need to have them spent by the end of fiscal 26. So moving on to.
Can I ask you,
Yes.
so about that, just to kind of get us on the same page. So we were on track to spend the rehousing portion of that funds under AYA's program. We'd already expended a good portion of that, and we were planning the rest could be also spent down by the end of the grant period, right? So
Yes. So I guess maybe to add a little bit of clarity around that, so that we do have confirmation that we can advance draw the rest of the rapid rehousing dollars if they will support keeping folks housed, paying their rental payments through December 31.
Okay.
So we can cover that 6 months
6
gap,
months.
and that's what's allowing us to draw all the funds down, not leaving anything on the table. So.
I just want to acknowledge too, all your work around trying to get approval to extend the shelter funds. As you guys may remember, we thought we were going to basically lose that money. That was all going to go back to the state because we were not able to meet the time requirements with the change. I mean, we had worked with the Salvation Army. That wasn't going to happen. And so we thought we were just going to end up losing it. But it looks like you all have managed to sweet talk
Well,
time.
I don't know, manage to sweet talk or just really irritate the heck out of them by regularly pestering. So it also helped. The governor was here last week and had an opportunity. I was asked to sit with her along with a couple other folks, and we got an opportunity to talk about this project, and she's in full support. And I can't say that this is what happened, but we hadn't had a confirmation yet from OHCS about Coquel Indian Housing Authority's funds being still available. We got that after the governor went back. So we got it in writing. That's what we were kind of waiting for. So, yeah.
It is clear, the state wants to be able to have this money work locally. So, I mean, I know that's their incentive. They want to see it work. That's why they gave the money in the first place. So I don't think they really want it back. They want us to use it. So
Put it to work.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's good.
Yeah.
One hurdle maybe.
Yeah. I mean, there's still a few more things we need to kind of work through before we can actually move forward. The county's been great, responsive in regards to, the property was listed. And so we made a call to say, hey, can you somehow put that in the background so we make sure someone doesn't come in and, maybe inquire and put forth an offer. So it's a regular communication, trying to make sure we align all of those stars till we get it operational. So appreciate, it's been definitely a group effort. So.
And I don't know, does everybody, you may want to just clarify what the project is as specifically as you are able to.
Yeah. And I don't know if Scott might be here to kind of talk about that.
Okay, we can wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So do we want to move to maybe SV 5701?
Sure.
Ori? So this was kind of just an extension of where 1519 kind of left off, except for it's focusing kind of on youth and families. Same number, 32 individuals, households need to be rehoused. And again, AYA's kind of stepped up and done that. I think we're on track with our numbers there. And Scott might be able to give a little bit of feedback on that, but from both funding sources, where one might have been short and one was enough, they were weirdly allocated based on the 32 that we had to do. They weren't equal in both grants. So there is a challenge in making that balance out. Then we haven't really done much yet with YEHA, the Youth Emergency Housing. We have three providers attached with that. AYA, the ARC, which is an organization that's kind of within the school, both Coos Bay and North Bend, and then Safe Families, and they do some in-home kind of placement work. They all put forth proposals, and so they were part of this grant that was written specifically for supporting them. So I do know that we have some communications with Safe Families, so I do expect to draw for them fairly soon.
Okay. I did realize I was remiss in one update too, just to go back a minute to the pilot funds.
Yes.
During our last meeting, we had made a recommendation to the county around those funds, if you guys recall. We made a recommendation that the county consider approving the Salvation Army's plan to do an outreach, a homeless outreach program. So that was our recommendation. And then we also basically remain neutral on the request that we got from the Salvation Army to support them using the funds that had already been allocated. Remember, the county had already allocated, I think it was 480, thank you. So they were asking for approval to allocate that funds for some efforts they had already done for sort of pre-work around their Hope Village project. And also they wanted to have some funds around the community kitchen. And this group made a neutral recommendation and asked not around that. So both Nicole and I were requested by the county to come to a hearing they're going to have around that. It is, I think, scheduled for a work group on. Thank you. So the 25th. So we're going to go ahead. I won't be here, but I think Nicole's going to come and represent our voice to that group with those recommendations that we had last time and any kind of clarification questions they might have for us around that. So I just wanted to put that on the record as well. Yeah. All right. Any questions from the board around any of those? All good? All right. We'll go ahead and move to project updates. Who wants to go first? Rochambeau, rock, paper, scissors.
Rochambeau's gonna get rough.
I guess Scott won or lost. I don't know what it is. So
I wanted to put some context into the work that involved in. Should I move those forward? Can everybody see those? Move somewhere else.
Put my glasses
And I want to start off by saying,
oh,
AYA never intended to fulfill these grants. There's a lot of people in the community that were offered the same opportunity that we were. AYA is a school. But it's pretty much done. We just did all the HMIS and want to bring up I think the numbers that I want to point out are 66 households served. This is Ben, Lynn, and Lincoln County. This is Curry County. 85 households provided rental assistance for the tune of $562,000. Your team has almost doubled that. We were able to provide services that are larger than the CAP agency, and that is through collaboration of multiple entities. Because while many of the other nonprofits in the community, can you hear me? Do I need this? Good. Oh, okay. We don't want to forget about Stephanie hearing me. While many of the other nonprofits haven't stepped up to actually do this directly, they do bring their clients to us. And this is a much bigger thing with the Homeless Response Office. There's now a new Southern Oregon Regional Housing, something called Spark. So everything is continuing to move it forward. We just kind of took the lead. And while I believe I'm quoting somebody, AYA gets things done, but it's not always clean or something like that, or it's sometimes messy. I forget what the actual quote was, but it was pretty good. And I'm going to agree with it. We had to bring on 5 staff members to do this, a lot in our accounting. We weren't expecting to do this, but it was a wonderful opportunity for our community. I've been saying very strongly since the very beginning, we needed to show the state that we could do this portion so we could get the next portion, which I believe is Bancourt School. About 30 minutes ago, we just turned in another grant for phase 2 of the Bancourt School with AYA and HUD for $6 million to the federal government. So we still continue to move forward on what we're doing. And that'll come into play at the end of my presentation. Okay, so we're contractually obligated to serve 32 on 5107 Ori. We served 34. We went over by 2. Oh. 5019. Why do I feel like we're missing something? There we go. 5019, we went over by 8. So we went above and beyond. One of the reasons for this was 5019 had $1.9 million, and the other one only had $1 million. So there was $1 million difference between the two. More on that one later when I get to the end. So we overserved, which is good. Of that right now, I know this board wanted to know how many were stabilized. 24 subsidy houses have been funded for a full year. Of them, 60% have maintained their housing after the grant funding was discontinued. It was actually higher that we've looked at it. Although some of the creative things we did on that one was trailers, because then the rent is lower, and we were able to transfer all the ownerships of the trailers directly to the clients. Because we don't want to own trailers. They're a pain in the butt. 5019, 74 families and youth. Actually, that's both of them. 50 continue to be served at this point in time. On May 22nd, I believe, OHCS changed what was originally in the contract, saying we can pay everybody for a full year out. That's what AYA told all their clients. It's clearly in the contract. On May 22nd, am I correct on that date? Thereabouts, I know, only because I looked at that email so many times. I'm like, what are you changing the rule at the end? They told us we can only go to the end of the fiscal year, meaning December 30th. This left us in an unusual contractual situation where we told them we will pay your rent for a year, and all of a sudden the state says we're only going to give it to you for 6 months. Of those, however, 11 are not receiving a full year supplement because of that. So there's 11 still sitting on the table. Future commitments. Ori 5701 was $1 million less than the SPA 5019. AY is projecting a deficit of $264,000 on rental assistance that we've obligated ourselves to. When you add the 11 clients in from SPA 5019 and the case management, we are about 300. They're telling me that if we kept drawing, we're expecting less and less case management as people keep coming off, same way that we ramped up to case management. But truthfully, we hope that we just find backfill and more funding to continue what we are doing. I am being told that that estimate is somewhere around $450,000 that AYA has put itself on the line for. Presently, I think we have 32 leases in our name. And we spend a lot of time with development and maintenance, fixing things. I mean, when you get a call at 10 o'clock at night going, I dropped the back of my toilet and it's squirting up and hitting the ceiling, you've got to do something. But it's interesting. AYA has gotten its hands dirty. We've learned a lot of lessons. We've took our time and have not drawn from Yeehaw so that we were better prepared. We were focusing on what we needed to do here. We did check all the HMIS, which is the state, the way they verify that we have everybody is in the system. Christina left me. We do have all the drawdown numbers done. We have spent out all of it and we will be drawing everything and we over exceed it. The only problem that we have is we're about $300,000 short on what AYA is committed. And that was because of change in rules and regulations. That's all, folks, for that part of the presentation. Presentation 2.
I wanted to make sure, so when you say that AYA is overspending or likely to overspend by $300,000, is that including the amount that you committed to spend for a year that's now been changed, or is that?
Figures in there as well, yes. And the other figure, which is even larger, about 200,000, is the fact that we're $1 million less for the same requirements on the ORI. And we've already started writing up grants. Yeehaw is going to be able to potentially backfill some of that. Sometimes you do what you have to do and then figure out how you're going to do it, which I know is not the best business plan. Was on my board for many years. Build it and they will come is not a business plan. It just sat up on my board. But when you have people in front of you that are houseless, particularly youth and families, you do what you need to do to serve them. So,
And can I ask and I had asked this before, just how many families are sort of directly impacted in the moment? Like, I mean, you've been providing rental assistance. A lot of that has started to be cut off.
Mhm.
So how many families, households are we looking at that are going to be in some level of distress during that transition?
it would be 40% of 70 or
Is
72.
that what it is?
Yeah, about 40%.
So we're really not sure what the outcomes for those families will be yet at this point, right? Whether they'll be able to maintain, whether they won't. We don't really
Correct.
know exactly what the outcomes are going to be.
Right, and that's why phase 2, I'm requesting that this board, the 4123 money is a little bit looser. It doesn't have the same requirements on it. These families could be continue to be served under that 4123 funding stream in the same way, and we can continue to move forward, backfill those 6 months that got taken off at the state level, and backfill that $1 million shortage that we had on the ORI grant. So for $300,000, we can backfill that 40% for at least 6 months. While we continue to find funding streams in other places. And today only for this wonderful, wonderful deal. We have been paying Michael Couch to continue to write grants. Thus, we just put in one for $6 million, not connected to the city or this particular, that one's connected to the rural Oregon Continuum of Care. But we will continue to work in this space. I'd like to think that I'm going to continue to keep the 5 extra housing people that I brought on and to serve a similar number. Right now, we're housing about 150 homeless youth and families.
I know the state has put out information about maybe continuing with Yeehaw into the next.
I testified for that one last week. I got an email this morning. It looks like the funding stream, but I'll wait for the ink to dry in September. But it looks like that funding stream is continuing to move forward. Yeah, there's one other one, YEHP, Youth Experiencing Homeless Problems. Looks like that's being funded. That helps support some of the other 100, when I say 150, there's multiple funding streams that are doing this. But the ability to have those multiple funding streams and figuring out where they fit, and why the Homeless Response Office no longer exists, I do feel like it exists at AYA at the upstairs when all the community partners keep coming in, bringing clients, which is an administration burden. Orca has done some good work with rapid rehousing. The Spark should start to help us understand who's in what stream and help us to work better together. But the numbers here prove that even without our CAP agency, we are doing better than CAP agencies in larger counties. I think there's a reason that the governor may have come down and that people talk about what we're doing here. And I believe that your support is the reason that we are doing this, and the community collaborating together. While there is not a homeless response office, the work continues to be done. While other people did not apply to administer this grant, they are being served under this grant, whether it's the gospel mission, Bay Area First Step, we're working very closely with them. So there's a lot of entities which makes an administration burden.
Anything else for Scott on that?
Well, I don't know if, just speaking to the Bologna Ranch project, if you wanted to share anything on that in more detail. Yeah.
Yeah, I think most of us were present when that project came up, and in the beginning, AYA thought it was gonna, and it went out and it rented a house. So we had a full house again, not a good business plan, but we did it because it was the right thing to do in community. When this fell through, we started just looking and saying what we can do. We've been looking at the Bologna Ranch for a while. It's going to back fund. That is a 10-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 6,000 square feet on 7 acres of land. It needs quite a bit of rehabbing right now. It's not in bad shape. A bunch of us went out there and took a look at it. It does have 7 acres. So there's a lot of potential out there. We haven't done a survey of the land or anything like that. So I believe everything, I don't want to jinx myself on this, is moving forward for that. So we'll be housing as many people as Hope Village at a fraction of the price. We attempted the other $6 million grant that we originally started working through was to continue to move Hope Village forward. So as a community, we are continuing to look at that Hope Village and say, how can we continue to fund that in other ways? And that's why for today only, that special deal is Michael Couch, who will continue to help us write grants to fulfill some of these projects that are now on the shelf and almost shovel ready for various reasons. More questions?
David, I had a couple. First, a comment, especially to the end of your reports, Scott, with the governor's visit here and all of these pieces coming together. I want to express how much I appreciate. I said from the beginning when the funding, before we had even received the funding, if the state wanted to see how things should be done, they should disperse this funding to rural counties who have, been eking along trying to make things happen really without a lot of support. But it's because of people like you, Scott, and Nicole, and David and Aaron Kaufman, and all of the people that have been working to try and make this happen. So I appreciate that. And this group getting us farther forward. And I appreciate the statistics because I think for our constituents, that's important that they know that this isn't just a one and done and we're walking away from it. There's some actual things that are happening to get people rehoused, which is the whole point of this anyway. So I appreciate that. When you were talking about that 6 months that we're trying to figure out how to deal with that deficit, are you going to continue to work with wraparound services so that we can get those folks stabilized even beyond what that December 30th line is?
Yeah, we've done some great work up at state through the Rural Oregon Continuum of Care, or OC3 as it's now known. We are focusing on, oh my God. Rent Well is one program that we put in here that has specific outcomes. The other one was social determinants of health. Through HMIS, we devised a system that will be training staff throughout the state, rural Oregon at least. It only affects 22 of the rural counties, on trying to get us all online. What we've learned is we're all struggling to help these people become successful. And we've all been getting together at a state level and talking about how can we do these things better. And some people have some great ideas, and we're just grabbing the good ideas and now bringing them together in a system through HMIS. And we chose to do it that way because that's already what the state is recognizing. And the original questions, when they come from for the intake, will be aligned with the outcomes that we're trying to achieve. So it's been a year of some messy, dirty work, but we've made a lot of progress forward. It's been very interesting to sit down with other people that have received this funding in other places. We have outperformed. And then much to your credit, Stephanie, for even recognizing we are doing better than a lot of other counties. And it's because of our collaboration. While AYA is the only one standing up here right now reporting, because we were too stupid not to say no, all of the rest of the service providers in the area have been part of this. Maybe running through our office, but they come from all the different agencies. And we will continue to move forward with SPARK. Do I need to explain that acronym? Or the Southern Oregon Regional Housing. Is that another acronym that we're familiar with? There's two other entities and ideas that are coming together to make sure that we do not lose the momentum that we've gained over this last year. So we just want to continue to make that momentum move forward and make those numbers rise and rise. And I'm going to give you one number that's going to probably clarify everything. For every unit, we have 19 people homeless in our county. That was a sobering thing when we wrote that up in the grant that we just put in today. For every unit, 19 people.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And that's just homeless. You got to remember, for every unit that comes online, you're competing with teachers, doctors, lawyers. It makes it even harder. I know that I just got done viewing 10 units. And they would have loved to work with us. And I told them, hold on, while we secure funding for the next set of things that we're going to do.
So Scott, how do you envision, I mean, it sounds like there may be funding available for the purchase of the old Bologna shelter. But I mean, as you and I both know, operational costs far exceed your initial expenditures. So, and grant money is iffy for ongoing operations, right? Grant organizations love to have your startup costs, maybe a year of operations. But when I look ahead about sustainability, about operations, do you have a vision about what that might look like, or how that would be a sustainable model? Because that's where I get concerned. I mean, it's the funding to purchase is one thing, but sustainability. I mean, we had this already with this program to start with, right? Sustainability was a problem from the get-go. So you could prop things up, but we knew that it was a Band-Aid. So I just get concerned about, so what is going to allow us, what would allow you to operate a kind of a shelter facility? When I look at like the Mission, which is the one that probably has some success, they have this whole fundraising part of their organization that allows that. And I think the Salvation Army has a similar model where they have this built-in donation cycle that allows the sustainability. But AYA doesn't necessarily have that in that way. So, and I do want to hear a business plan that looks like has a chance to work.
I may make fun of myself about my business plan, but I've been an entrepreneur for many years, and what we first did was we diversified. We were an educational company. We are now sitting in 4 different sectors. We talk about braiding funding. Our ultimate goal is 100 units that are self-sustaining that brings in passive income. And this is being really funded through the grant funding, because they'll originally get that project off the ground. Some of the things that I've learned at my time at Neighbor Works is that 20 years later, you better make sure that you are putting money into to continue to do maintenance on those properties. One of the only reasons that maintenance in these properties work so well for AYAs is we happen to have a trades program. We happen to be running youth through these. We happen to be working them into the program. So this is the braiding. If our education is falling low, maybe our workforce is doing better. If our housing isn't doing so well, maybe our development is doing well. This model has been working quite well for us, making sure that if one is falling low, we can bring up the other. We've been doing really well. Truthfully, the best thing for success is keep getting those numbers and quantifying the work that you're doing. And then we continue to be funded. As we get known more and more, we move more forward. Our biggest one is something called Youth Build. We've been working up to it for years. And that is putting youth into the trades program and hiring them on to build these facilities. A youth that is building subsidized housing will never have to live in subsidized housing. So that's our ultimate plan. It's a multi-year. As far as grant funding right now, typically, we just purchased 10 pieces of property. I think you saw the presentation at the homeless. We just took down 37 dump trucks of garbage and removed it, and now it is a flat piece of land. So we just continue moving forward on projects, make sure that they're shovel ready. When the grants come up, we match them together. If they don't come up, we continue to move forward using general funds. If you were to tell me that you couldn't supply the 300,000 to backfill, we will just continue to move forward. Yeah, no, you just gotta keep moving forward, because if you ever stop, you might die.
Do you have a general operations budget?
3.2 million,
1.2 million
3.2 million.
for,
AYA, that's our budget. It's being presented next Tuesday, so I'm just very clear on that one.
that's for the purchase of the project, the operation funds for,
That has nothing to do with the purchase. That's being ran through the city. That is not part of our budget. Our budget is now and you're probably looking at me because I know I've shared my budget with you in the past. We have gone from $300,000 a year to $3.2 million a year since COVID. We've grown and continue to grow. And we also changed our model to service for fees for service. And that's an interesting one, because I know me and you were having a conversation. What I learned is, as a CBO, I can actually bill directly. That was a good learn, and I want to give Amanda the credit for teaching me how to do that. We've applied to the state now. So finding ways to do fees for service and not just living for the grants is really, I think 40% of our money coming in right now is fees for service. And we're looking, when I put together the budget, 26% of it could be cut depending on what the current administration does. When I looked at our funding streams, which were 52 different funding streams last year, 3 of them we thought were potentially going to be hit by the federal changes. So I may make a lot of jokes, but if you want to ever come, I'll bring up my sheets for you.
I think just to maybe clarify, I think you're talking about specifically, do you have an operational budget for the shelter so that the shelter has a continuity over the coming years? I think that's what you were asking. Yeah.
Okay, so we looked at that budget versed on 3 different shelters that we're running. That one is running about $225,000 a year right now. Our game plan, if it gets one of the facilities, Betsy, we are renting, and we'll just shut that one down quick and easy, leaving us back to 2 in case things. So you got to have a plan B in place at all times, because you never know what's going to happen.
so I'm just not sure if I understand correctly. So you're saying you believe the operational budget, if you were to start running the Bologna shelter, would it be about 200,000 per year operational? Give or take?
And that is tying in the other locations as well. So it's scales of economy. When you put on more sites, it doesn't always cost you more money. It does increase the money, of course.
We're just really trying to get at the long-term sustainability. I mean, that's really good. I said, I mean, the grant money that we have, if we really can, use the 5019 funds, and if the Coquille tribe can use their funds, that's great. I mean, that's a good start. But
It's 2 years.
that's right. And then so then operationally, 200,000 every year with inflation and other costs becomes really an ongoing challenge if there's not dedicated funding. And
That's, both me and Matt from HUD are involved with the continuing funding streams for the shelters. That seems like it's moving forward very well. The other thing that we've done to help sustain this is we've tied ourselves to HUD Section 8 vouchers that will help it be more sustainable, because then the money's kind of going in a circle. So that's that braiding of funding that you've got to do.
yeah, I just know there's challenges, like, right, HUD funding is great, but for shelter without a lease, that you can't use HUD. So that becomes a no-go for shelter. So it did remind me, though, that it sounded like the state has committed to ongoing funding for some of these shelter beds too, correct?
I think the intention, at least what I've understood from the governor's office, is the rapid rehousing and 8 shelter beds were, so under 5019, were written into the governor's proposal. Now, does that mean that proposal gets passed in its entirety, untouched and butchered by the rest of the folks who make those? Who knows? But it was her intention that those, and we were regularly quizzed on those numbers to what we would need to continue that from OHCS. So I think that's the intention,
Appreciate it.
but whether it makes it to the finish line.
The second one, the Ori, that one I believe is solidly funded already. It was originally written
Yeah.
into the, so that's going to be the baloney, and that really says it has solid funding, but you don't know for how long, you know.
Anything else for Scott?
I don't think so for Scott, but if there is a presentation to the county for any use of the 4123, do we need any sort of consensus, or will they be looking to us for that?
Yeah, I mean, so I was gonna, I thought about letting the rest of the projects present, and then maybe we could have the board have a discussion about. So the other issue is us as the board is, we have, if you look at it stands now, we have $133,000 in 4123 funds. It's also not clear what the county is going to do with the funds that have been delegated to Salvation Army. I don't know if that will stay or change, so it may be different based on what the county decides around those. So we had this in our executive meeting. There's a discussion about what to do with that is leftover funds. As I think we've said before, we've met all of our obligations as a Office of Homeless Response, and so those funds, as long as they're dedicated within the purposes of what they originally are, we're free to allocate them as we would want. So I had said to Nicole in our executive meeting, like, well, maybe we should have a discussion about our process, like, what do we want to do? How do we want to deal with that? If we have this 133 or more, whatever it is, what do we want to do? Do we have some choices? We could allocate it to an organization that we already know, that we're already working with. Do we try to put out some kind of request for proposals and start from scratch again? I mean, we could have an option potentially of doing that. But then Nicole reminded me, we don't have any staff. So that would fall on us as a board, probably have to try to administer that. And we're probably not well suited to do that. But so I did think, we should have some discussion about the remaining balances and what we would want to do with it as a board. So. I leave that up. I'm quiet now so that you guys can weigh in on what you guys think would make sense.
Hearing the other proposals is a good idea.
There are no other proposals at this point, unless
How
we
about
find them.
hear another presentation?
Well, maybe we will, yeah. And I'm not saying we have to take any action necessarily today, but I think having a discussion about a process makes some sense so that we're transparent about what we do. Whatever we do, we should let everybody know this is going to be our process, so that we have an opportunity to hear from folks with some level of equalness. So, yeah.
I'm not quite sure how to phrase this, but in the interest of transparency, since you've mentioned that, I think it's important that this wasn't particularly a piece that was on our agenda for today. And I would like it to be noticed that is going to be a discussion in case there was anyone that had interest in making a proposal or being part of that conversation or whatever. I just feel like I know there's a time issue and a concern for that, but I also feel like this is a body that is responsible for money that is generated through the state, through taxes and budgeting, and this needs to be part of that process.
Was that your take? Is that what you were saying, Drew, as well? That we leave time for opportunity to hear proposals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got to have that spot in there. As you say, we have to make sure we've given folks a fair shake. If we don't have the time for folks to make proposals, and we want to.
And giving people proper notice
Yeah.
to do that. And I think that's what you were saying too, Stephanie. It needs to be properly noticed on our agenda that this is what we're considering and allow people an opportunity to speak on it. Okay. So maybe what we can do is put that on our next board agenda, that we'll consider proposals for use of any of the, available funding under the 4123, whatever that amount tends to be. That sound
That sounds good. We'll want to talk about what that looks like if we get proposals and who's I mean, that was the challenge that I landed with, is there are not bodies to walk that path through with processing all of the proposals and vetting all of that we just don't have staff. The office doesn't have staff. So where will we let that sit? And while I willingly obligated my team to step in and help fill the gaps, I want to be really mindful of, what we continue to kind of pick up slack for. So
it might make sense to try to find a way that we can sort of pare down. Sometimes what I would say, I don't know if normal is the right way, but the normal process can be very lengthy and a lot of requirements, and it really requires organizations also to have to do a lot of work ahead of time in order to respond with a proposal. So maybe we looked at a sort of pared down way that organizations can present and that maybe we could evaluate. I would hope that, maybe we give some preference to organizations that are already involved in the work that we're already familiar with, that are already engaged in this space, rather than new partners that we have no familiarity. I mean, there are really just a handful of organizations locally that have been doing this work with us. And maybe we try to stay focused on those organizations that we have already been partnered with, rather than entities that have no relationship around this work with us. But
And I would just like to say that my issue is more with just adding this to our agenda today, as opposed to we need to go out and get more proposals or give people the opportunity for proposals. I agree, David, that they've proven that what they're doing is working and they have momentum. I don't know that we need to. I just feel like it has to be noticed that this is what we're going to discuss instead of just adding it to an agenda. I don't particularly think that we have to go out and say, well, we're going to now look for all kinds of proposals. If we have something that's working, that's fine. I just want the public to be able to weigh in by it being noticed.
Your concern is more around public meeting laws. Okay.
yeah, I think that makes complete sense as well, Stephanie, is that we go ahead and we publicly notice that we're going to consider discussion and items related to the remaining use of the remaining, pilot funds, and then we could properly notice it, and then we can hear from whoever would like to speak on those, and then make whatever. And I just to remind us, again, these are county administered funds, so we would be making a recommendation to the county. So
Yeah.
it's not like we would be taking direct action. It's a recommendation to the county, who has authority about how to spend those funds.
I think it also gives an opportunity to fine tune that information and make sure that the public is aware of how this is working and, the success of it as well.
Again, of course, it is also not clear exactly how much funds we're talking about. So I would also point that out.
agreed, but by the time we're ready to produce an agenda for the next meeting, it's
may
very
know.
possible that the county would hold the work session and
Yep.
then potentially have a action meeting following that to
Yep.
make a decision. So
Yep.
Okay. Sounds good. Good discussion. Thank you all. Any other project updates? You guys good? All right. Let's see, I'm gonna give just a bit of the response office updates. So basically our Newmark office is mostly cleared out. All the valuable things have been removed. So the county has now control over all the electronic stuff. So there's some sundry things there. But I think it is, my recommendation and the cold recommendation that we let the college know that we're no longer using that space and that they can take it back and do what they want with it. So, unless there's an objection, that would be our plan, is to let the college know that they can have their space back. We haven't been using it for a while. All of our notices are sent to myself at this point, the emails, which there's very little volume. So, unless there's any word that we should do something differently, that would be our intention, is to go ahead and do that.
Good.
I think that's great, and also acknowledge how quickly they stepped up to the plate to find us a space that was centrally located. They did not hesitate at all when we asked, and I appreciate that collaboration with the college, making that space available.
Yeah, that was just as a reminder, that was Counselor Kilmer who reached out and kind of got that ball rolling for us to find that location. So, yeah. So is that, I am certainly happy to contact the folks at the college and make that arrangement.
If you, I don't know those contacts.
Okay.
You-
The other piece, I think furniture is still there, which I think came from North Bend. They are desks that were maybe in the old annex building that were,
They're not.
yeah.
I
So
can
do we want to
reach
have,
out to David Milliron and see if they would like any of that furniture back.
okay,
Maybe what we do is we give a little bit of lead time. I also have one of the staff's stuff still over there that I need to get out. So
Okay.
if we maybe just give a little lead time to see if anybody wants it. Those desks, I don't think anybody's gonna want them back.
No.
They
Yeah.
look like,
so we'll have to
They look
maybe
like a
arrange
kid
for them
games.
to be disposed of, or what do you? I don't think that SWAC will love if we just leave them in there. So I guess that's my concern. What are we doing with that?
let me check and see if I can have them removed by county staff. Let me see what that would look like. Yeah, okay. Yes, we should leave the space in better shape than we got it. Yes, okay. Good point. All right. Public comments. Do we have anybody?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a honor to be here with you today. Know many of you personally, and I appreciate all your service. I'm just here to comment publicly. My name's Dave Kaufman, by the way. I live in North Bend, and I work for another agency. You know who they are, but I'm here today to represent Dave because I wanted to talk to you guys about something specific. And it was 2 years ago that I arrived, and the strategic plan was just underway, and we were meeting in a school, and I apologize, I don't remember where it was at. And then we moved over to the North Bend Community Center, and then I strapped that thing to my office wall, and I remember reading it most days and looking it over. And I remember how we started off strong, and there was lots of activity and dust flying everywhere, and everyone's working really hard. That reminds me, it was brought to my attention about in the Bible, there's this little book called Deuteronomy, and around chapter 23, and it talks about how the people who were brought from Egypt, they've been in the desert. Their parents, because this was a generation later, their parents were brick makers. You can read the story. Their parents were cattle people. They raised cattle. But this was a new generation. And through Moses, God shared with those people that they're going to be going into a new place, and they're going to be setting up shop. And instead of just running in there fast and kicking everybody out, he says, we're going to do it little by little. And the thing that I noticed about this group is that I say me, I was a participant in a different way. Dave Kaufman is here today. I noticed how this was going little by little, and I appreciate very much right now that so much good stuff has happened for so many people, and there's been real activity that have brought people who are I work in Empire, and there was a lot of activity around there. A lot of things weren't so good, but a lot of great things have happened for some people and they're coming off the streets. I've worked with several people that are members that have received services from AYA and the difference they're making with those folks. And then the collaboration that we came alongside many of those families and we're working with them too and helping in different ways. And just wonderful things are happening for people. And he said 60% are retaining their households. And I'm just real pleased with that. The little by little work. And I'm on my way to a new place, but I wanted to share that with you. I was encouraged by you. I've grown so much by working alongside you. I shared in a meeting yesterday with Drew that I had to stop talking because I was ready to cry. And I'm to that point again, doggone it. So he said he was going to push me over the edge yesterday. Thank you, but I wanted you guys to know that I'm so it's been an honor working with you and seeing all the good things that have happened and all that's been accomplished, and keep up the great work. God bless you guys. I pray. I mentioned the Bible. I'm a man of prayer. So you guys all your names are on the list, by the way. It sits in my study space in the morning. So know that you're prayed for and it won't stop. I carry those lists with me. I've still got them from when I started this work in 2004. I've got lists of people from back then. So just know that. God bless you guys.
Thank you, David, and best of luck to you in your next step of your journey. So
Apologies, you have to go to Seattle.
yeah, Seattle's fun. What are you talking about? It's a blast.
Kind of be attending the same places for the fun and stuff.
Well, that's true.
Never mind.
All right, that's all we have for public comments signed up. And board comments. Anything you want to share?
I've sort of been absent for a few months, but I'm so grateful to be back that you've been patient with me. No, I'm impressed with everything that's been going on today. I'm really interested to see how you're going to allocate the $130,000 funds in the process for that. I was thinking of a lottery when you were talking. But yeah, public comment, I think you're going to get some interesting people in here wanting to access some of those funds. But I'm so impressed with everything that's going on. So I'm pretty grateful to be part of this.
Ron, you want to share?
Yeah, I think I took a picture of this slide. It's already been mentioned, but I'm pretty impressed with 60% of that group that have maintained their housing. That's amazing, Scott. And pretty. I think it's a pretty impressive accomplishment. The end.
Drew?
I'm gonna embarrass him. Just to thank the Majors Kaufmans. You've been the best folks I've seen come out here from the Salvation Army. You've definitely accomplished the most. And you will be a very difficult act to follow for the next folks. Tell them I'm terrible. But I look forward, and if I end up in Seattle for something, I'll try and hide out wherever y'all are.
Give your address. Nicole?
I probably don't have too much to add other than, again, just really like Drew, being really thankful that you guys got to take a short little diversion into this community. And just add your hope. That's what we got from you guys. So you will be missed and hope we keep in touch. And also just an appreciation to what AY has done to kind of help us round out this work. I don't know. It took a long time for us to get the wagon started. So just really appreciative of that work.
Thanks, Nicole. Stephanie?
Well, no one ever said that the wheels of government move fast, right? But two things. If you want something done, ask a busy person. Thank you, Scott. I don't know how you do it all. And thank you for tracking this for us and keeping things on track and doing it as you have done for so many years. And to the Majors, there's not much more that hasn't already been said today. And I've said it before. how much you added to our community. And you came along just when we needed it the most. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. And I would say, David, I was hoping to see that you were walking without a limp today, but apparently no surgery before you get to go either. Is that correct? That's just not right. It's just not right. Anyway, that's the end of our agenda. We'll call the meeting to close. Thank you.